We are going to finish up our B set and then work through A and B. Here is the full-on problem 1, 2, B. Remember, I'm okay with you not doing these little update the balances every time. Rather, I'm looking for the total row. You will have this on the test. You will have to do something like this on the test. Not in between. Good question. Only at the bottom. Okay. One thing you won't have to do is use these numbers, though, to build your financial statements on the test. I should quit talking because I'm giving you all sorts of answers here. Okay. So you'll have to do this by itself. These numbers won't be reliant on your financial statements like they will be today. Feel free to take a picture of that if you want to cross-reference your numbers later. You're welcome to take pictures of my answer keys via your screens. Were there any that were challenging, or did you do okay? Okay. Now let's get into going back to the A set, using these numbers to make 3 financial statements in a certain order, beginning with the income statement. What does the income statement show? Money in versus money out. That hopefully will yield a what? Net income, which is money in that owner's pocket. Okay. The headings are there. Isn't that nice? The headings will be there on your tests. Very similar to your problems here. How many revenue columns were there? Going back to that big double page spread. How many revenue columns were there? I only saw 1. So you only are going to have this indented under that heading. Now you have 2 columns. Why are we using the right column here? It's the total already. Jenna's right. You don't need to worry about adding things up like you're going to have to under expenses. Because we only had 1 revenue column, we're done with revenue. How many expenses did we have? Now you don't see more than 1 expense column, but remember how we wrote them down? How many did we have? Were there 4? Okay, so you will just list them in that order. Now again, some businesses will put these in alpha order. Some will put them in order of, greatest to least balances. Just know on the test, I'm okay with any order as long as the 4 are there, or 5 or 3 or however many there are. Under 270, I see a line. Why is that there? You guys remember, there's math above, Tate's right. Do you remember what this line is called? It starts with R. The rulings. That is a point on the test that you did your rulings correct. Now we put this in the left column. Unlike the revenue, we have a left column for what? Math, okay? To run our math. Itemized, if you will. What's going to go on the next line? Because we had more than 1 expense, what's going to go on the next line? The total. We have to say total expenses. You'll notice my answer key tucked that in even further. I'm okay with it being left aligned as well. I'll be honest, I'm not going to get so worried if you indent correctly. As long as I can read it, I'll be happy. We take the total 4,070, kick it over to the right column, and now we've got some more math to do, don't we? We're going to stop and say, did our revenue exceed our expenses? Is 7,500 greater than 4,070? Yes. So what's that called? Does it say net income on your answer key? Is it down a few lines? Okay, just get used to that. I'm always going to give you a few more lines than what you need. So we can say Net income is $3,430. I see some more math here, and then we double rule underneath. Could you go back to those transactions as a checkpoint? Did your total expenses equal $4,070 on the transaction list? They did. They should have. Okay, now the bigger question is, I'm going to go back. We know there's 2 pluses and 2 minuses impacting owner's equity. Have we wiped 2 of them out? Yes. We've wiped out this one and we've wiped out this one. Will that net income though follow through to the next? It's just that we're kind of bundling it up here together. Okay. Speaking of the next financial statement, it's the owner's equity statement. It tells the story of how capital begins, what we added, what we subtracted, and how it ended. Okay. I would, for sanity purposes, take out a highlighter and highlight this number because we're going to use it somewhere else. We are going to find out how the owner's capital changed. Do you guys have little headings in there? No, wide open. Okay. We're going to put owner's capital, comma, beginning. The book uses dates. Dates are fine as long as you know what date it is. I'm okay with owner's capital, comma, beginning. And Sue had a beginning balance. How do we know that? Because remember on your big double page spread, there was a balance line. Sue came into the month with $8,800 as her capital balance. That was not an additional investment. Rather, it was what she started with. So Sue, comma, capital beginning was $8,800. What did she add? What 2 things do we add? We add any investments, and in the case of net income, did she get to add the net income total? There was not any other additional investments though. I even have some students get so ingrained in that, they'll actually put sorry, I'm going to get that out of the way. They'll actually write investment here and put a 0 over there. And if you feel better doing that, meaning you're going to add net income, you're going to add additional investments, and you're going to put a 0 over there, if you feel better about just knowing that that's always one of the additions, even if it's a 0 balance, feel free to put that over there. So she started with $8,800. She added that $3,000, $3,430, excuse me, of net income. Just so you can see where that number comes from. You can total it. I've noticed my answer key likes to do that. If you don't want to do that though either, that's okay. But I would, for your sanity, oh, I'm still on highlighter mode here. I would put a plus sign right there. If you want to do a little subtotal, you can. I'll put question marks by that because you wouldn't need to. We're going to subtract off our drawings. Or if we would have had a net loss, that's where that number would have been shuffled down to. But we didn't have a net loss. At this point, we would stop, single and double rule, and we'd say owner's capital, comma, end. that owner, Sue Kojima, is worth, or her capital is worth $11,530. Double rule at the end. Are we going to use that number somewhere else? We absolutely are going to take that forced math and use it finally on its balance sheet. So that's going to go to the balance sheet, which is on a different page for you, isn't it? So we can't beautifully draw it down. I'm going to quickly put this in, and just as a, and you can write it down or not. Keep in mind our income statement is revenue, the expenses, hopefully equaling a net income. From there, we build an owner's equity statement where it's the capital at the beginning, plus net income, plus investments, minus drawing to equal the capital at the end. And if you've been lost so far and all of a sudden my simple little chicken scratch up here, it sunk in, great. Remember, I'm recording this so you can go back and rewatch it. And basically these two things, these two statements, an income statement and an owner's equity statement, are basically the OE plus plus minus minus part of the transactions. It's just that net income gets bundled and dropped into the owner's equity statement. So the two pluses, the two minuses are basically communicated, or IRC communicated, in these two financial statements. Because remember, we the accountants, we can look at this and understand it, but we don't expect our internal and external users to understand it. That's why we the accountants are duck paddling, busy underwater to get this created to output these financial statements that look a lot easier and cleaner to read. We have one more to do. This is how the test will be. You'll roll right into your balance sheet based on this. Your practice test is not like that. You'll be fine either way. I know you will. Let's make our balance sheet then. We know we've got a number that's going to be pulled from our owner's equity statement to be placed on our balance sheet. Do you have single column over here? Oh, you do have double column. Let's not use the left column. Let's not use the left column. On your practice test, don't use the left column either. Use the right column. You might ask, why are the assets in this order? Later you're going to learn a word called liquidity. It's how quick you can turn an asset into cash, and typically balance sheets are in order of liquidity. Again, I'm not going to get too bent out of shape on order right now. Okay. We're pulling these numbers from our transactions, of course. And I see a single and double rule because of ALLO. This is ALLO, just in a vertical format instead of horizontally across your page like your transactions were. If on Friday you are struggling with the L and the OE portion, but you know you got your A portion correct, by all means put that 16,800 in, because that's a point saver. It's also a very gratifying way to know you did it right if you got the correct number. As we move to the other side of L plus OE, I believe the headings are there. But because there's two of them, we have to, before we just plunk our liabilities in, because we have three of them, or two of them, excuse me, you want the word liability showing up over there as a heading. So do you see how this heading is there? Assets are assets all by themselves, but because of the word and, we need headings. Now I can tell that I have two liabilities because I see two payables on there. I see notes payable and accounts payable. So that because there's more than one, I have to have a total there. And I also need a single rule. We are so close. We're almost done. What's the other piece of this allo puzzle that we need to finish? We've done the assets equal liabilities plus what? Owner's equity. So we need a heading. You will only have one thing that shows up underneath there. It's called owner's capital. And that was the forced math from that other page. $11,530 is what we generated from that other financial statement, because it's basically the owner's equity story of how it's changed over the course of the fiscal period. Yes. The question was asked, owner's capital will be the only thing there. Correct. And the number will be forced based on what you did in the previous financial statements. And then you'll stop and say total liabilities and owner's equity. So basically, like what was said here gets placed down here. With another single and double rule because we've done more math. The liabilities plus the owner's equity equals the same thing as assets. And here's where accounting is black and white. It's right or wrong. It's very much matter of fact. And if it doesn't shake out that way, you have to start backtracking to find your error. Yes, Carrie. Really good question. Could you put, OE here? Could you put liabs? I tend to put liabs a lot. I answer this cautiously. In the real world, they'd want it all spelled out. In a timed 65-minute test, you can abbreviate some. I'll even have some students do NP and AP here. I think it's a little early for that. With accounts, you could do you could abbreviate accounts payable like that. So I guess to answer your question, I hesitantly say yes, because we're learning. Because you're in a timed test scenario. In the real world, you'd spell them out. I'll use BPA as an example. This is, there's a couple different accounting contests in BPA. So if you're in BPA and you're thinking about, oh really? They would dock you points if you abbreviated in that setting, in a contest type setting. Good question. I'm glad you brought that up. So what I want you to do now, you've got about a half an hour of class, give or take. I'd like you to try the B version of this without me, spoon feeding, guiding you here. But then at about 5 after 10, I'd like to show you the answers. And I'd like you to be able to take pictures of them so you have them in case you didn't finish them. As a reminder, what I'd like you to have done upon walking into class tomorrow is your practice test. And we will mark that thing up like crazy. So try the B version of this. I don't need to give you your allo number because I already did. It's already on that transactions and I sent it to you via remind. Okay, so as we look at all these transactions that you did for problem 1-2B, now it's time to create financial statements. So here's a look at the income statement. It looks like there's one revenue, which if you start to see that this becomes a pattern, it looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4 expenses. You can tell they're in order of like their amount. I'm okay with whatever order there. Look for the single and double rulings. It is. It is a double ruling. It's just that my answer key, to make a long story short, I take it from a very small answer key and blow it up. So yeah. That 4580 ends up getting put down here. Remember, I'm okay with owner's capital, comma, beginning, owner's capital, comma, end. Typically, you're adding two things, net income and any investments. You'll notice where the 18280 is, that's kind of a stopping point to see if your numbers are shaken out. I'm okay with that not even being there. So I would like to see use of pluses and minuses though, to just visually help you since this is new. And Jen is absolutely right. This is more of a double rule. It's just that my answer key is a little bit smudged together. Yes, question. You can tell these are in order of their amount, like largest to smallest. Sometimes businesses do alphabetic order. I'm okay with whatever as long as the 4 are there. I'm willing to hunt. Okay. Just so you know, on your practice test, this is where it would stop. Your balance sheet is kind of exclusive. But on the test, it's going to be more keep going now with the balance sheet. Okay. Any other questions before I go to the balance sheet, you guys? Feel free to take pictures of that if you are not ready with the numbers yet. That 17180 ends up on the balance sheet as the only owner's capital number. Jenna asked a good question earlier, is that always what's going to be under owner's equity? And the answer is yes. You'll notice my answer key only used the right column. So it's okay if you just kind of X out that left column. Notice this is allo. Vertically. Yes. Because there's more than one liability, the book wants you to stop and say, let's see what the total liabilities are first. Is that what you're asking me? I don't know if I do that because of this. Yep. I put you're done with your math at the end. So it's more like liabilities plus owner's equity. Good question though. We're not quite done doing our math there. That's why I wouldn't double rule. Good question.